Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of OverVoice Season 2. Here today we have Raven Visceral. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hello, my name is Raven Viceral, and I am a voice actress.
Hell yeah. And just to get this question out of the way, what got you into voiceover slash voice acting?
Yeah, this is an interesting question for me. So I technically started back in 2014. It was one of those things where I was a giant fan of anime, giant fan of cartoons and games growing up. I didn't know voiceover was an actual job. I knew I liked it, but I didn't know it was an actual thing that people could do. And so when I was in high school, that's when I stumbled upon YouTube videos, particularly audio dramas that were kind of fan projects that were based off of previous shows that existed. I was kind of in the Attack on Titan sphere, so if anyone is part of that whole like Attack on Titan audio drama age, that was me. So I saw that and I came to the realization that all of the voice actors in that show were mostly college students or young adults. So me being a little high schooler was like, well, if they can do it, why can't I do it? And so I started doing it for fun in high school, and it was this kind of fan project side thing that I did in addition to what my actual job is. So I have another career in medicine. And so it was this weird thing I was balancing on the side for fun. And then at some point I had a mentor who, told me that I think, you're really talented and I think you're better than you think you are. And I think you should be going for paid work and taking it as a more serious career. And I was like, really? And he's like, yes, you absolutely should, go 100% in and do it. And so when I was in college, a sophomore in college, that's when I decided taking it more seriously, and here I am now.
Hell yeah. You mentioned Attack on Titan before, but any particular cartoons that you enjoyed watching growing up?
My first anime ever was Naruto. Naruto was
Yeah.
was introduced me to anime. I had seen a couple of episodes of it, but when I was in fourth grade, I watched all 220 episodes
Whew.
straight through, every filler, everything straight through in like 2 weeks. I was insane, and then I watched all of Shippuden straight through.
Nice.
Um, so I loved that. I loved pretty much everything that was on Cartoon Network. Some of my favorite shows were like Conan Kids Next Door was something I really, really loved.
Yes.
And there's like a lot of the Cartoon Network shows during that time period. Like Flashstone for Imaginary Fans. That
Hey.
was one that I really enjoyed. I watched stuff on Nickelodeon at that time as well. And so kind of just all of the early 2000s, right before the 2010 hits, before Cartoon Network hit their reality TV phase.
Oh God.
Yeah, that whole reality TV thing, that was where most of the cartoons I watched were. And so like Chowder was the big new one during that time period right
Oh, I
before.
love Chowder. It's my
Yeah.
inspiration.
Yeah. So I loved all of those growing up. And then like I said, anime wise, I watched Naruto, and then I watched a good number of other animes during that time. So Full Metal Alchemist had a dub. I actually started watching anime dubbed. I didn't watch subs until much later. I think that maybe should have been my indicator that I might be a good voice actor into the like dubbing industry. Is that I, without thinking about it, watched everything dub if there was a dub, and then I would watch it subbed if they didn't have a dub.
Yeah.
And so then I kind of just interchanged going from there.
The good thing about that is if there's a dub, there's a sub. So it's like
Mm-hmm.
it's always there. Um
Mm-hmm. I can always switch over if necessary. That was hard for me, which I'm glad. I mean, now I'm really glad Prince of Tennis finished all of its dub through
yeah.
when they continued the rest of it, because I started it dubbed and then I was like, where's the next episode? I can't find it. And then lo and behold, it's because they stopped the dub. So I switched to sub and finished it all the way through.
Oh wait, did they stop?
So
Oh, the Prince of Tennis stop. I didn't know that. I didn't know.
yeah, so Prince of Tennis did get a new dub, and a couple of my friends voiced in the second part of that dub when they
Yeah, same.
continued that dub.
Yeah,
Yeah, I was like, oh my god, this is so cool! I can hear my friends
it's so
voicing in
dope.
things that I, enjoyed growing up. Prince of Tennis was a huge one I loved growing
Yeah.
up. So
Hell yeah. Um yeah, any particular animes or cartoon franchises that you'd like to voice in someday, in the very far future,
in cartoons, well, I have a dream role in games. If it ever comes to play. My favorite game growing up was Soul Calibur. So the
Yeah.
entire Soul Calibur series, and my favorite character was Talum, and she's my main in every Soul Calibur game. And I didn't realize it until I was much older, when I was actually trying to learn her move sets and actually be good at it, I always resonated with her and I never knew why. I just loved that character and I couldn't tell you why I really resonated with her. And when I was looking at her move sets, I came to the realization that part of her move sets were written in Tagalog, which is Filipino.
Yeah.
So then it dawned on me, oh my God, Talum is Filipino. So as a young Filipino girl, I was like, oh, that makes a whole lot of sense why I liked her so much. Like I felt like I saw myself in her. I resonated with her. Even like the voice acting, because I played games both dub and sub. So
Yeah.
I would interchange them. So I resonated with both the voice acting for it. So I was like, man, I really love Talon. So I don't know if they're ever going to make a new Soul Calibur game, because I know even the latest one was kind of a Hail Mary, like we're praying that hopefully we get a new Soul Calibur game. So we'll
Oh
see if we
yeah.
ever end up with a new one. Because I know, Tekken and Street Fighter all are getting new things coming out. So
Oh
Soul Calibur is not really big up there on the market. It's kind of a little niche, but if I could ever play her, that would be amazing. In
yeah.
terms of like anime or cartoon series, I would love to voice in Boruto. I mean, because Naruto is over, but I would love to just go back to my original roots beginnings, play some character in Boruto. In fairness, I don't even watch Boruto anymore. Like, I stopped watching it. It kind of, I think it's because I watched all of Shippuden's, like,
Yeah.
all of the filler. At some point, I'm like, I can't do this to myself again. I can't go through this again. But I actually did like Boruto's writing in
Yeah.
comparison to Naruto, but I ended up dropping it because I just didn't have time. But I would love to voice in that to like bring it back to where I
Yeah.
was.
Yeah, I haven't watched a lot of Boruto actually. I keep watching clips out of context, like everywhere.
Yeah, same.
Like there's one where Sasuke and Sakura are fighting like a T-Rex, some dinosaurs for some reason.
Yes, yes, that is so. Some of the things in Boruto are so bizarre. I feel like there was nowhere else to go. Without spoiling too much of Naruto, we touched space because I don't know where they could have gone. Like
Yeah,
we already defeated the Sage of Sixth Paths and we defeated like the biggest boss ever. Where
yeah,
more can we go? Space and time. So we kind of went
true.
off
I
the
guess.
rails from Shinobi, but it there was nowhere else to go, I guess.
Yeah, I
So
guess so. But like it's turning into like JoJo's Bizarre Adventure like
yeah.
honestly, which is not a bad thing, but like,
Yeah, no, but for sure.
but like in its universe, it's like is this completely random? I need to
Yeah.
get context because why is Sasuke struggling so much against this freaking dinosaur? What's happening?
Yeah. I mean, even in the original Naruto, in the filler episodes, they had this ostrich that's a
Oh
shinobi
yeah.
ostrich. And I was like, this is already bizarre. And then it's now even more bizarre. I can't even keep track of where it's going anymore, but it's enjoyable and fun to watch. So,
Hell yeah. And you mentioned this before. So yeah, so you're also studying medicine as well, if I'm not mistaken. Or,
yes.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
so what's like because I know there's a lot of voice actors out there who actually went through medicine and went straight into voice acting like Max Middleman. He was in the process. I think he became a doctor at one point, and then he went straight to voiceover. And now voiceover is like is his entire life. So like,
Mm-hmm.
I want to know like what's the balance between like balancing medicine and voiceover because they're like
Mm-hmm.
separate things. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Actually, I even have another friend of mine who also worked in science. Then she quit her science job to go straight into voiceover. Voiceover is a very, very fun thing to do. For
exactly.
me, it really is like a middle ground balance. And I totally understand that a lot of people have dropped out of it because medicine is a huge time commitment. For
Mm,
anyone who isn't aware, medicine is a huge time commitment. It's a lot of studying, it's a lot of hours, it's a lot of, grueling time that you just don't have a lot of free time to do other kinds of hobbies. And so I ride that line as best that I can. So for me, I've always wanted to be in medicine and always wanted to be a doctor since I was very, very young. I was a little kid and I always wanted to be a doctor. And then when I got into high school, I really took it seriously and thought about, is this what I really want to do? I explored other career paths, mostly in STEM. And then I realized, no, I really just want to go into medicine. And so because I've been working so hard since I was in high school to get to medicine, I'm so committed to pushing through and getting in. So I'm actually applying to medical school this cycle. So fingers crossed that I
nice.
get
Hope
in
you get
this
in.
cycle.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
hope you
fingers
get it.
crossed there.
Yeah.
But the main thing for me balancing that is finding the time in my schedule. So I have to block very, very carefully to make sure that I'm able to train auditions on time. The hard thing is sometimes I do have to turn down a role or an opportunity because I know it's just not feasible for me. So because of like right now I work in an emergency room, I have a schedule and I work night shift. So I work until 2 in the morning. So sometimes I know I'm not going to get a 24-hour turnaround. So if there's a project that requires me to have like a 24-hour turnaround, I need at minimum 48 or I'm not going
Yeah.
to hit it. So sometimes I just have to turn down an opportunity because I know, I can't dedicate the time there. And it's hard to let go of things, but I know that's part of the sacrifice of trying to maintain two different careers.
Oh
But like
yeah.
I said, I try to ride that line pretty closely. And the one thing I really, really want to break into, which I haven't yet, is medical narration because of the whole medical background. All these people that have to look up the medical terms, how to pronounce them, what does this mean, all of those things, that's like my bread and butter.
Oh
i
yeah.
i write those on a daily basis. I know what they're pronounced, I know the entire process of it, so reading it is like reading a normal book to me. So if I can get into that field, I think it's a really special niche that is helpful in the sense that I don't have to like spend extra hours looking up all of these other terminologies to be able to do that kind of narration. So I'm in the process of figuring my way into that. I'm in the works of making a commercial reel at the moment.
Hey,
And
no.
so once that's all together, then I'm gonna break into, figuring out where I'm gonna go with narration. So
Yeah. Yeah, I actually did some medical narration last year actually.
oh
Uh,
really? Yeah, yeah.
because both my parents are doctors, so and I needed someone to voice pretty much just do like medical narration for their
Mm-hmm.
new doctors, new students. It was really fun.
Yeah.
Um, it took me a while to pronounce everything, so I'm really happy that you have it's like your bread and butter because it took me a while to
Yeah.
pronounce certain words a certain way. But yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's really fun. I hope you get into it. It's a fun time.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's such a specific niche that not everyone's trying to break into. But
Yeah.
man, pharmaceutical companies, especially if they're watching this,
Yeah,
I
man.
am so down. Give me the science terms. I have a degree in chemistry, and so even like the more, scientific terms, breaking down scientific compounds, it's not a problem for me. It's
Yeah.
just it never comes up in the character work I do. Like there is no character that is giving a full spiel on the medical breakdown of something. So I it's something I really want to break into more. I just haven't found as many opportunities. And I know oftentimes it does come from agents, but like I said, I'm
Yeah.
in the process of making my commercial demo and I can't submit to agencies without one. And
Yeah.
so
That's
I'm in
good.
the little in between ground.
Yeah, and I really like that you said that you really wanted to be a doctor and you're like you followed that through because a lot of people,
Mm-hmm.
at least in my country, a lot of people end up taking medicine or becoming a doctor because of mainly monetary gain, which is not a bad goal.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like the goal should be helping people first and foremost. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah, and everyone has their focus in medicine, and mine is accessibility to healthcare. I think that everyone should have accessibility to healthcare. I live in a country in the United States where not everybody has access to healthcare. It's not free for all. And
oh yeah,
so, I'm really big about making sure that people have that accessibility and have the means to like see the specialty that they need. That's why I do a lot of volunteer work with
yeah,
nonprofits that give to communities that just don't have proper medical record, like they do have I need to rephrase that. They do have doctors in that area, but there's a lot of low income people who don't have the means to get medical care, or
yeah,
they're just on the cusp where they make too much that they're not considered poverty and just get medical care,
yeah,
but they make too little to actually afford it. So they're in the in between where they can't quite have insurance. And so I do
yeah.
a lot of work with that.
I really respect that. I respect that you volunteer your time for that. You're a good person. I like that. That's
Oh,
really
thank you.
awesome. Yeah. Any particular? Because you said you wanted to be a doctor when you were younger. So was it like any particular like? Because the doctor is like there's like various things you can do with that. So
Mm-hmm.
do you mean like something like a GP or like dermatologist?
Yeah,
Any particular one that was kind
I'm
of
pretty open. Yeah,
Okay.
I'm pretty open right now. So I used to say I wanted to go into dermatology. It's one of the most competitive and hardest to get into.
Mm,
It also pays the highest, but even if I were to go into a subspecialty, I want to be a subspecialty that sees government aid patients.
yeah.
Because again, my big thing is accessibility to healthcare. And a lot of subspecialties just don't see government aid because the government doesn't pay enough in our
Uh,
country to see practitioners. So it kind of, you're working at a little bit of a loss of income, but I'm okay with that because these people need to be seen. And especially in dermatology, everybody's got skin. But I'm also open because right now, like I said, I work in the emergency room. So I've been exposed to a lot of the emergency medicine. So I'm considering, is that what I want to do? I shadowed a lot in other different fields. And so in medicine, they allow you to rotate in different parts of medical environments. And I'm going to try to figure out of those which one really resonates with me. I've also thought about ENT because that does relate to, what we do in voice acting. So then maybe I can make a special subspecialty of myself, with vocal care,
yeah.
particularly for actors. I think that could be really cool. But again, it's really up in the air about what I end up actually enjoying and doing and seeing what they do.
Hell yeah. And this is totally like random out of nowhere, but in America, is it true that if someone is pregnant and delivers a baby, you have to pay for that?
Yes.
That's so strange to me because here
Yeah.
it's free and
It's with through your insurance,
oh
about how much of
yeah.
it is paid or not. It depends on the insurance you have, but it does come at an expense because like I said, we don't have free healthcare here.
Uh,
And so we have to pay for the use of facility, the doctors that are delivering, all of the medical processes and things that are done. So all of that needs to get paid for, and that's paid for typically by insurance. So depending on how good of an insurance you have determines how much money you pay. Because if you have
yeah.
higher insurance, then the insurance will pay more of it for you. If you have a lesser insurance, then you pay more out of pocket. So it really
Yeah.
depends on what your insurance is because everything's privatized here.
Yeah, because I was talking to I was on set like last year a while ago. I was talking to one of my set mates, and she was telling me that like she would like to have 12 children. She wanted to have a big family. I was like,
Wow.
you cannot if you're very lucky you're in New Zealand, man. Like I cannot imagine having 12 kids in America at the same time all at once, you know. Unless you're like
Mm-hmm.
you're stacked, then yeah. But
Yeah, and especially if you are in the boat where you have to get a C-section, so rather than, passing naturally, you have to get, cut open and get the baby out that way.
oh,
That's even more expensive.
mm,
So all of these, because it's a procedure, so every procedure adds up in terms of medical billing. So it is all going to depend. So yeah, it's a very, very expensive thing here in the United States to,
yeah.
have a baby.
Yeah. And yeah, what you guys might not know about Raven that she also makes websites. In fact, she
Yes, I do.
actually helped me design my website.
Yes.
So in my eyes she's a goddess of nature to me.
Oh,
So
thank you.
so yeah, so how did you end up doing website design?
Yeah, that was a total accident actually. So I mentioned this, I have a major in chemistry. I also have a major in communications.
Mm,
And so I worked for a communications firm, and at one point I was in charge of the WordPress of my school's newspaper. And so I kind of learned a little bit about web design there, and then I worked at a communications firm and they had me work on some of the website stuff there. So I learned a little bit about website design. When I was in high school, I wasn't quite the best graphic designer, but I loved graphic design. Not like I didn't necessarily love designing it myself, like drawing it myself, because I'm not that much of an artist in that sense, but like making posters, making different like photo edits and whatnot, that was something I was really into in high school. And so because I had this graphics background, I thought, it would make sense when I was making my own website, which is how it started. Because I had all this website design experience, I didn't want to pay to make someone have, I wouldn't want to pay for someone to make my own website. I was like, well, I can just figure it out myself. I'm sure it's not that bad. And so I spent honestly kind of too long. I kind of noodled around on Wix on my own. And so I maybe spent 6 months learning how to build websites on my own, just playing around on Wix. Because at the time I was waiting on my animation demo to be completed. And so while that was in the works, because I was pretty late down the queue for that, I was like, well, I can't publish my website until I have my demos. So I'll just like make it perfect while waiting for my demo to get done. So I spent those 6 months just kind of messing around on Wix. And so my partner Jace had a website that he had maintained by someone else. Unfortunately, his web designer was from Ukraine. And so after, the war on Ukraine
Oh, right.
happened, he lost contact with his web designer.
Mm.
So he's like, well, I need to make a new website from scratch now. And so he started to build one on Card, and it was just a little complicated for him to figure out. But if anyone's looking for a free website, I'm going to shout out my one of my best friends, Dom. Dom
Yeah,
has a
dumb.
Card template for
Oh,
how you can make voiceover websites. So I highly recommend her if you're trying to make one for free and just need a template.
yeah.
But for Jace, it was very complicated, and he wanted things in a very particular way. And Card has some limited features in their free version.
Yeah.
And so I offered, like, well, why don't I just make it for you? So unfortunately, I caught COVID. And so both Jace and I were quarantined. Jace somehow didn't test positive, but I did. And so while I was like sick with COVID, I was like, I'm going to make a website because I can't leave my room and I have nothing else to do, and I can't do voiceover because my voice was gone
Mm.
from COVID. That was very rough. Losing my voice due to COVID was very, very difficult. I lost out on a lot of opportunities in the 2 week period it
Oh,
took.
yeah.
It was very sad because a lot of the casticles that came out that were closing were right in my range, and I was like, no, of all the times. So I built websites. So I built Jace's website, published that, and so then it was just his and mine. And then a different friend of mine, Jalen Askins, he
Yeah, Jalen.
also, yeah, so Jalen was building a website, and he was building it live in front of me, and I kind of just like took over. I was like, Jalen, this website does not match your personality. It's not very you. It was way too basic template for who Jalen was as a person. So I was like, if you'll let me mess around with it, I'd love to help. And he's like, oh, sure, I would love that. So then I ended up building Jalen's website. And then so from then it became this thing of building other people's websites. So then a different friend of mine,
Yeah.
Dakota Farnsworth, reached out to me and said, hey, do you know any web designers? And I was like, I can recommend you a couple, but they were out of his budget. And I knew that. So I was like, well, I've technically built 3. If you would like, I can try to build yours. And so I ended up building Dakota's. And so from there, it became this constant, like, recommended from a friend situation. And in fact, my website does not officially have a website commissions tab. I need to actually make it, but I actually have so many commissions that I'm spending more time doing the work of building sites than building my site. So that's been a whole process in and of itself, but it's mostly been by like word of mouth recommendation.
Yeah.
So like right now I have 2 that I am working on and 2 that are queued up. So they're going to get back to me. I have to schedule a meeting with them, and Vikram knows this. I always schedule a preemptive meeting to figure out, what kind of things people want on their sites. So I have 2 in the works already, and then 2 almost in the works where I have to meet with them and figure out what they are looking for. So
That's
yeah,
a
that's kind of how it started. And now it's just something I do in addition to everything else that I do. But it's a lot of fun for me. It provides a nice creative outlet difference.
yeah. I interviewed Sam slash Ember this season
Mm-hmm.
as well. He also mentioned you and Jace as well. He mentioned that you made his site as well, and that's awesome. The whole Scott
Yeah.
Pilgrim aesthetic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So one of the big things with Som is I was like, and the big thing about website building for me is I really want websites to match people's personality and their brand. And so the reason I set up that initial meeting is so I can figure out someone's personality and what their brand really is. And so when Sam and I were talking, I was like, I mean, I'm going to be honest, Sam. The reason why I know this is because it's in his profile where he says Scott Pilgrim is the best movie in the entire world. It's just part of his brand. So I was like, so why don't we just make your website Scott Pilgrim themed? He's like, can we do that? And I was like, I don't see why not. Let's give it a shot. So we went with it, and then we designed it to be super, it's very poppy. His entire site is very animated with all those pops on it. and he absolutely loved it. So I am glad it worked out the way that it did. But again, I just want to make sure that all the sites I make really resonate with whose site it is, because a site is your first look at somebody's work. It's a look
Yeah.
into who they are and their personality. And if I look at your site and I can already tell from looking at it what kind of personality you have, that makes it easier for me to think about like where you might fit into my projects. Like my website is very colorful, but it's more like muted shades, which are that's kind of what my personality is like. It's bright, but also, you know, tamed down a little. Jace's website is very sleek and cool because that's what he as a person is. Jalen's website is also very in the sleek and cool category. So it's kind of, I try to find the best way to encompass somebody's personality into their website. So the
Yeah.
two that I'm making right now, they're both going to be much more decorative than the other websites I've made, which is very exciting for me. It's a nice
Hell
new
yeah.
challenge.
Nice. Yeah, 'cause I think all I gave you was just a lot of purple, orange, and black.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We also went with a cool vibe with you.
Yeah.
If you check out Vikram's website, it's very lava lampy in the background.
Yeah, I
Like
love the
it's
lava lamp.
very chill, which is exactly your personality.
Oh, thank
So
you. I mentioned and actually speaking of the websites, when we were doing the meetings, making mine, you mentioned that because I think it was this year, yeah. That your goal was to get at least 10 commissions by the end of the year. I
it
think
was initially 5,
five.
and
Yeah,
then
we
I've
hit
hit
five. Yeah,
5. So
yeah.
it's now 10. Yes, it is
Hey,
now
come
10
on.
because I hit 5.
I was gonna say because
I
you're
didn't
halfway
think
there.
that would happen. Yeah, I was like, okay, I didn't expect that to happen. So by the end of this 4th commission, that would be 6. So I might actually hit 10 before the end of the
Hey,
year.
come on. It's only
We're not even
April. So
halfway, and I'm already way beyond the goal. So that's
yeah.
actually really
And
awesome.
as this is recording, we're still in April. So yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So we're not even halfway. Not even we're like maybe like a 4th in, and so I still have a good ways to go to still make more sites. So
Yeah. Just coming back to Soul Calibur and stuff. Do you play a lot of fighting games, or is just Soul Calibur the one?
I play a number fighting games. I will say is Jace's thing. So Jace kind of schools me in every fighting game that we play, and that is okay. So I will sometimes play Smash with Jace. Jace played Smash competitively, so I get like demolished every
Oh yeah,
time that I play. However, by playing Jace, I have become a better player because now I
exactly.
can demolish my younger sibling without any problem.
Yeah.
So I do play that. I started learning Third Strike. I'm very bad at it, but I started, which I'm proud of that at least. And then back on the Naruto theme, I played Clash of Ninja a lot on Wii when I was younger. So I played a
Yeah.
lot of that. I'm not as big of a Smash Ultimate player, which is what I played with Jace. I actually really started with Smash Brawl, and
Yeah.
I never had online. My parents never wanted to pay for like PlayStation Online or any kind of
Yeah. That's
online
fair.
capacity thing, like Xbox Live. Didn't have that. So I only played with my siblings and with my friends. And so I'm not bad because I played it a lot with my friends, but I didn't play any professionals. We were all kind of just like noodling around, don't actually know how to play anything. So I would say between fighting games, the one I played the most was definitely Soul Calibur. I have thousands upon thousands of hours in that, in both 2, 3, and 4. 3 being my favorite.
Yeah.
And then I played Smash. And then I met Jace, and then I learned how to play Smash through Jace, and then I tried to play Tekken. Tekken is so hard. Tekken is so
Yeah.
difficult to figure out how to play. It
What
just
if you
functionally plays different.
what if you play Eddie? Then it's easy.
Oh, I don't.
Yeah.
So
Um.
yeah, so
But I know that Tekken and Soul Calibur are both by Bandai Namco, right?
mhm.
So is the Yoshimitsu in Soul Calibur the same Yoshimitsu in Tekken? I don't
I
know.
believe they're I believe they're different, but I've never looked into Tekken's lore to confirm that they're the same. I
Yeah.
don't actually know. But on the bright side, you know, Tekken also has Josie, and Josie's also Filipino. So
Yeah,
there's
Josie.
always Filipino representation in, you know, the Bandai Namco games, which I really appreciate.
Hell
I
yeah.
never played Tekken growing up, and like Josie's like predominantly Filipino. The one thing I really wish they would give to Josie is that almost every other character in Tekken, particularly the latest Tekken, right, is that all of them use their native language to speak at some point. So
Yeah.
like all of the Tekken characters use their native language. Josie doesn't ever use Filipino,
Oh, she speaks
Tagalog.
English. Yeah.
She only speaks English. And I would absolutely love if Bandai Namco either, authentically cast somebody who speaks Tagalog or any other kind of Filipino language. Because
Yeah.
I don't really know Josie's backstory. So she could be from a different part of the Philippines, like Bisaya or Cebuano or Ilocano, whatever other Filipino language that she would probably natively speak. I think that would give so much more to the Filipino community to have representation in fighting games.
Yeah. I'm still waiting for that Indian rip in Tekken. We only have
Yeah,
one in like Street Fighter, and that's Dulcim. But like
yeah,
Dulcim's cool, But
yeah.
yeah, who
I
knows?
was so happy when they released an Indian Valorant character. That was
Yeah,
really awesome.
yeah. What's his name? Harbor. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, I'm all for authentic representation. I know a lot of people are, but for me, it does make a difference. Like I said, I didn't know why Talum resonated with me so much until I recognized that the reason why is because I culturally and like as a person identified with her. Like
yeah,
she was short in stature, the way that she dressed, the way that she talked, just her whole character demeanor resonated with who I was as a kid. So it does make a huge difference growing up having something that you can relate to. I felt very relatable to that character. So,
oh yeah. And just for our last question of the interview, as someone who is a voice actor, is a website designer, and a freaking doctor or learning to be a doctor, uh,
uh-huh.
balancing all those things at once, and honestly, just in general, is there any I would say one or two pieces of advice that you'd give to aspiring voice actors or people who have
Mm-hmm.
considered voice acting but are unsure of whether they want to go into it or not.
Mm-hmm. The first thing I would say is that you do not need to pick. Everyone that tells you you have to commit to one, you don't. However, you should be aware of the limitations you'll have by doing so. So because I don't do full-time VO, like I said, I have to give up opportunities. I have to not push as hard where everyone's turning in like 100 auditions. Like Jace does like double, triple the amount of auditions that I do. And that's okay because that's his main thing. But being okay with that and reaching that understanding, the big thing I want to emphasize is that is okay. It is absolutely okay because everybody's journey is different. I wouldn't change a single thing about how my journey has gone, whether it's the fact that I've had less character work than other people because I had exams, so I couldn't submit, or feeling like I wasn't seen because most of the work I do is narration. You are so valid, and it is okay to have more than one interest. Just pursue however you will and follow your journey because it's your journey, it's nobody else's. So that's one piece of advice. The second thing I would say is be genuine and kind. So a lot of the opportunities that I have gotten have come from recommendations from people who I never expected would recommend me for something. And so you never know, not like I'm saying go in, make friends because they'll get you into places,
Mm,
but you never know when, how you treat somebody will come up at some point and someone will mention you and then you'll be thought of. So
yeah,
like I literally got a role yesterday because someone thought of me to recommend me and someone reached out and said, "Hey, I got a recommendation from you." I got a different job I got because my professor recommended me to a different place that I literally just emailed today.
yeah,
So being genuine will get you places just by being real because everyone wants to work with their friends. I'm going to be honest, this industry does have a lot of nepotism in it.
oh, a little
There
bit.
is a lot of there is talent, but connections get you places. And so I've gotten into projects on my own merit, but you never know how it's going to help you. And I
Yeah,
didn't mention this, but I also work as a producer, and in addition to all the many hats that I wear, yeah,
awesome.
I'm also a video editor and
Oh, okay.
just social media marketer, like literally like different hats.
Wow.
But one time on the production side, we had three characters, three actors. There was no difference in their performance. Like honestly, they were all on par, all just at the same level. Any of them could have gotten that role. And the reason we cast the way we did is because I had worked with one of them previously and I could vouch him. So I said, I've worked with him before. He does great work. He always turns in on time. I highly recommend we go with him. And that is why he got the role. It's not that he was more talented than everybody else who could have gotten it, but because I knew him and I knew his work ethic, he got that job.
Hell yeah.
So you never know when people are going to talk about you either in a positive or a negative way. So I
Yeah,
would always say be genuine, but also be kind, because you never know who's going to be talking about you behind the scenes, and you never know who's rooting for you behind the scenes.
exactly.
And so, like, keep close to your homies, know who your real ones are, and, make genuine friendships and
Yeah,
connections, because I know this is something you tweeted about earlier today. Like, always
yeah,
be open to collaborate, be open to making friends and working with other people. You never know down the line when it'll come up.
exactly. Just make friends, have fun. And with
Yeah,
that,
exactly.
the interview comes to a close. Thank you so much, Raven, for joining me. Um, just would you like to quickly link any socials or anything like that so people can find you in the
Yeah.
description and all that?
Yeah. So all of my socials are at Raven Visceral on everything, on Twitter, on Instagram, on TikTok. If you want to find my website, it is ravenvisceral.com. Um, if you're looking for getting a website created, like Vikram mentioned, I do commissions, so feel free to DM me. And like all of my socials are linked. I have a linked tree in my
Yeah.
Twitter account, and so you can find all of my links to everything there.
Sweet. And with that, the interview comes to a close. And thank you so much, Raven, for coming once again. And yeah,
Yeah,
join us next time for the season finale of Overvoice Season 2. Bye.
absolutely.